Okay, I just started the recording. So we want to welcome everybody to the 2019 State Fair registration information meeting as far as that goes. Again, this is being recorded and we'll get this shared out with everybody. A couple things that we want to share first. First, there's three things we're going to do today. One is I'm going to share with you just the current situation of the State Fair so that you're aware of it. Two, in terms of personnel and status. Two is we're going to talk about the processes of what does that mean then to you as an educator related to your county and the youth in your county coming, kind of expectations associated with that from the program and supervisors. That I guess Kelly, he's for everybody right now. And then third, then what are the specifics? We'll get into the specifics and show exactly where to go and what to do so that you're know and feel comfortable with what to do for State Fair, okay? So first, State Fair. You may or may not be aware, you should be, that the organizational structure for supporting the State Fair within the state of Wyoming has changed. This last year, they created a State Fair board. One of the actions that occurred by the State Fair board was the removal, the departure, the firing, however you want to look at it, of the existing director, James Goodrich at the time. He's no longer there. Subsequently, the deputy director, Vicki Rupert, had left as well. And upon her departure, Bonnie Ramirez left as well. So of the kind of original group of people at the office, there are two remaining. The maintenance person, Mark Maui, and a couple people that worked with him over the past are still there, and Peggy Hawkins. And you may or may not have interacted with Peggy, depending on past structures. The current people of names, so that you recognize some of those names. One of them's on. Thanks, Chris, for joining us. Chris Mitchell is kind of replacing or filling in right now for Bonnie Ramirez. Dan Cheney, as I've mentioned in previous emails, is the interim State Fair director, and he's just getting us all, the whole state, through this year's State Fair. And they have Reba, and I can't remember Reba's last name, who's filling in kind of in Vicky's role from the fundraising and donor support, all those kind of perspectives. So that's the current status of State Fair. The reason I wanted you to know that is they're all desperately trying to do their best as well in providing the information they have, the processes that they've been told about. So please, please, please give them a break. They will give you the break because they know that they don't know everything as well. So please do not have expectations that are unrealistic. Otherwise, you're going to hear back from me if we hear that you guys are being mean. So be nice, and then they'll be nice back, okay? There. Along that same lines then, Reba, thanks. In the chat box, Chris responded that Reba's last name is Sunset, if I said that right. Sunset? Okay. All right. That was number one on the list. If you have more questions about that, feel free to call us or ask later on here too. Number two on the list then is, so what does that mean, our expectations? It is Extension's expectation as a partner with the Wyoming State Fair and the Department of Agriculture that we do our part in bringing our delegation of all of our youth and fill in there. As part of that expectations, you are, as the 4-H educator in your county, responsible for some specific things related to the State Fair. State Fair is its own entity. They operate their own way, but the partnership in the past with Extension and with FFA has been is that the advisors and the 4-H educators are in charge of the delegation. All of the youth and entries and everything associated with that are your responsibility. That being said, we have some processes to help streamline that, but from their operating practice, you're their go-to person if anything occurs with any of their youth or entries associated with the 4-H program. They go to the FFA advisors for those for the same, maybe the same youth, maybe not. Open class stuff is not you. So anything to do with animals or things tied to open class, that's a direct thing. You can just direct them to the State Fair office. Okay? That's what it means to you. Your supervisors expect you to engage at State Fair, be at State Fair. The details on that is really between you, your supervisor, and your office on length of time, who's staying where, all those things. I'm sharing that because we do have a few either fill-ins or new people that are going to be watching this afterwards that have tried to frame that. So if you have more questions about what that looks like, how it's funded, things like that, you can give us a call. But typically that's totally on your county dollar. to be at the state fair. There are a few weird exceptions if you're on contract with state fair as a judge or helping out in a different role where there's monies from them to support that. But that would be on a case-by-case basis. So there's the expectations. Now let's get into some nitty-gritty, okay? So there's some forms that have been created by Sarah to help in the process. And let's start with those, Sarah, maybe so you can frame. These are tools that Sarah's created that we've shared out in the past, and she either is, it looks like you might have just sent them out a few minutes ago to everybody. So if you want to cover those forms, Sarah, I'll mute myself and then I'll get back into the information that Sarah's sharing. How does that translate to all the processes you're going to be in charge of as educator?
All right, sounds great. I did email those out probably about 5 minutes ago. So if you haven't seen them or want to open them as I talk, that's great. There's 3 forms, thanks to Kim Fry for reminding me that they exist because I sometimes forget these things. So I'm just going to share my screen so you can see what they look like. So this is the first one. It's basically some information that you can share with your families if you want to help them to get ready for a state fair. I send it to you as a Word document just because there may be some nuances that you want to change based on your county, how your county runs, especially in the first part. It talks about sending exhibits. Some of you bring them in, and so you may just want to delete that section or revamp it to fit your needs the best. I think one of the biggest changes that we probably haven't communicated very well is that for some reason, the state fair schedule, my guess is based on everybody coming and going, has that all exhibits need to come in on Monday. I don't think that we shared that information with you prior to this. I think we've been saying Tuesday. But according to the state fair schedule, Fort Reno and Fort Casper will be open Monday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And it says that everything needs to be in place by 5 p.m. on Monday. If that tends to be a problem for you or your families, if you can just contact me directly and let me know that so I can have a schedule of when each county, what information they have that they're bringing stuff in later, that they're bringing stuff in that we need to be watching for, please just let me know directly. And if not, I'm expecting that your county will have everything in place by 5 p.m. on Monday.
Sarah, and there's a separation between static exhibits and livestock. Livestock has to be in on Monday.
Correct.
So
yeah. No exceptions to that one. I don't control that one. We only control what's in Fort Reno and Fort Casper, so we can help you if that tends to be a problem. So, so this kind of is just for your families to let them know what to do. And we did update all the prices on here finally, so that kind of reflects there. But basically, it just goes through the different things that may happen at State Fair. So if you look on the second page where it says here, Arrival in Douglas, that's going to talk a little bit more about when their stuff has to be there. Like I said, if you're bringing their stuff in, there's a lot of this you could probably change or delete based on the needs of the families in your county. And then I think the other thing that's in here too is there's going to be this frequently asked questions. And so that way, if you have any questions that your families have, they're probably going to be there. But that's just something to hand out to your families. The second form that was included, let's see if I can open it here quick, was the individual registration form. So this is going to be if you want your families to register and then give it to you so you can put it into what Jonathan's going to explain here in a little bit to order your credentials and your animal stalls and all that kind of stuff. This is a form that you can use for that. So it basically has all the different things that families can buy and how much things cost. So that way, if you want them to have to pay you individually because you're not paying for them, this is a great worksheet for you to be able to use for that. And everything should be on here that we offer at the state fair. So it includes the livestock judging, the fashion review contest, and then also showmanship, if they're staying in the dorms, that kind of thing. So this is the second form that you can use for your families. And then the third form is the dog and cat registration, just because, oh, just kidding, it got moved. So let me find that one in a second. Sorry. It is. So this form is because the dog and cat show is specific 4-H shows, and they're not run by a different entity or a youth show like the rest of the shows are. So we actually do these ourselves. And so this is a way for you to be able to know what kind of things that you're going to enter for the dog and cat classes. So if you have kids that are going to be in those two classes, this is the form they would use so that then you can put that information into the right place. So those are the 3 forms that I sent out to you. And if you need other forms that I didn't know we had, you can be like Kim and email me and say, where are these forms? And I will look for them and try to get them out to you. So that's what I have for that, Jonathan.
Again, I'll tie these forms to the actual registration process, but yeah, does anybody have questions about the forms themselves? These are, again, are tools that you can use with your families to help you gather the information you're going to need for registration materials, gather money, collect all that data to help you. Okay, I'm not hearing anything. I'm checking the chat box. Okay, if not, then we'll move into the rest of the process. So I will try and share my screen, if I can remember out how to do that. And share. So in that email, you saw a link that looks like this. Basically, this is the go-to place for you as a starting point for everything in terms of making sure you get your kids and all their stuff registered, okay? It walks you through all of the connections with State Fair. It's the same for FFA. This is something that our office does to support you all so you're not going 16 different places for whatever place. You have a starting point to walk you through all the process. There are 3 steps you have to do, okay, to get your delegation. One is you have to get them registered, especially their livestock, through ShowWorks, and that's through this link. 2 is order all the stuff they're going to need while they're there. Figure out you're going to pay for that with 1 check to the State Fair. They will have these packets gathered up for you, and then you distribute all this information back to the kids, all the passes, things like that. And then we have a piece for just registration just for 4-H. Again, here's a link for FFA advisors for data that we help them collect for them as well. We do this because every county does this a little bit differently in terms of their relationship with FFA as well. So this, we have found the last few years, has worked effectively in gathering information. It also helps us in getting stall numbers because they've had problems in ShowWorks based on the fact that kids don't enter themselves into the State Fair that you all do, that we can get more accurate animal counts to match up with State Fair for the superintendents to assign stalls in the quick turnaround that a lot of you have between your county fair and State Fair. Okay, so step 1, let me play the scenario. The scenario would be this, and my advice would be, is you have some sort of meeting with all of the kids that are coming to State Fair. And that you would schedule that as either tied to your county fair, again, depending on when your fair is related to the State Fair, the last day of it, the week after, if you've got a gap between them, but you would schedule a State Fair delegate meeting where all the parents and everybody can come. At that meeting, you would distribute those forms or collect those forms if you've shared them ahead of time that Sarah just gave with you. Then they can go through and fill out all the information related to the kids, what they're planning to bring for animals, what they're not, do they want this, where they plan to stay, all that information that you can then gather individually from the kids through those forms, and then you can have that. The questions you're probably going to get at a meeting like that would be things like, how are our exhibits getting to State Fair? Hopefully you have an answer for that from the process that happens in your county. It would be if I show up with, how do I find my stalls, or where do I check in with animals? Again, you should have some of those answers for you. If you're not familiar with any of that process, we have at least 2 that aren't. Give us a call and we can walk you through the specifics of exactly how any one of those scenarios might play out with animals or not. We're not going to do it on this call simply because we want to cover the registration process. But if you have those, give us a call. Those might be some questions. Quickly, Amber or others that might be on the call, Emily, are there other questions that you've heard as an educator at some of those kind of that do have those meetings, so that some of those that might be new to this might be prepared to hear and answer?
Jonathan, can you quickly mention the horse parking and the dog and cat and poultry parking?
So Kim, I couldn't hear very well. I heard something about parking.
Yep, sorry. Can you do dog, cat, poultry, rabbit, and horse parking and talk about that real quick?
I still didn't get it. So is it my audio, everybody, or are you guys hearing it? No? Okay. Sorry, Kim, maybe you could post it into the chat box.
I think she said something about poultry, rabbit, and horse parking.
Oh, okay. So there is an infamous horse parking pass, which I don't, it's been this like unwritten thing from State Fair. It's above board now. You can buy a pass, or families can, for $25. What I don't know is what that means. I didn't have enough time. Chris, if you're still on, you might be able to answer that. Chris, do you know where the H pass allows them to park or not park? And she may not be, she may just be plugging in to catch it afterwards as well.
And for dog, cat, poultry, rabbit, those are just drop-offs, and then they have to park in the Pepsi lot. They can't stay anywhere. So they can come in, drop off their animals, and then they'll need to go park in the free lot or purchase a pass.
Correct.
Some of the questions that we had last year were about how much the families contributed to the cost. I know each county is probably really different. Ours, we cover their registration fee, and then a $25, and then whatever on top of that they do as far as meals and dorms and all of that, that is covered by the family, not by our 4-H council covers the rest of those fees.
Yeah, great point, Emily. Who pays for what is always going to be one of those questions, and it varies county by county, like you said. Sometimes the council supports it, sometimes the county fair supports it, sometimes there's no support from anybody. It's if you're going to State Fair, it's on your dime. Pay us for this registration part to it, and the rest you figure out, not you, the kids figure out when they're at the fair. So you're going to want to know how that happens in your county, is how they're funded, from what perspective to gather and distribute those funds. Good, Emily. Yeah.
And that was something I didn't know last year. And they were all saying, hey, we need this parking pass. We need this, we need that. Those parking passes are on the individual, not on the county. Unless you have a different plan. Like I said, I didn't know, so I got them. And then they were ridiculously expensive. And then there was the argument of, oh, the county's supposed to pay for these. No, the county doesn't pay for those. Knowing that ahead of time, whatever your policy is really important. So
I think that's why having those State Fair meetings are important, so you can do that.
I was flying blind. I had no idea what was going on.
And then we also we coordinate travel for all our livestock. Somebody donates a semi and takes our livestock to State Fair. So knowing those kinds of things beforehand is always helpful too, and helps people. So yeah, just having that's why this is good, because we're changing our meeting to have it during fair this year, and I need all this stuff. So good thing. So
yeah,
ours are all responsible for their own transportation for livestock down there. If for some reason they need to share a trailer, I can help coordinate that, but we don't provide transportation for any of the live exhibits. Only the static exhibits do we deal with. One of the other questions that came up last year that I didn't know the answer to that I do now was about the meals and the dorms and how all of that works. And so just knowing those costs ahead of time, I've got all the forms now that I didn't have last year that break those costs down, because we had people signing up to do things or saying that they needed it and didn't know the cost, and I didn't either. We're ready this year. It's not gonna be the biggest train wreck of all time again. But that was the biggest thing I learned last year, was having all those answers beforehand.
Yeah, if you're new, then a few things to put on your radar is, if you have kids staying in the dorm, who's chaperoning them? It's on you to figure out how. It's on you to either communicate with their parents, or if it's a issue, to coordinate that's taken care of. And then how are they eating? And then what does that mean too? One approach can be is just step back and put a parent hat on. Pick some family in your community that might be a first timer to State Fair and go, all right, if I'm that person and I've got animals and static exhibits and we all want to go to the State Fair, what do I need to know? And what questions would you have? And if you write all those questions down, then you can go back from the perspective as an educator and answering all those questions and have answers to those. You can feel more prepared going into that meeting, because if you've got a first-time family going to the state fair, they're going to have all of those same questions in some fashion. Whether you provide that on paper, but they're gonna want answers to those at that meeting or before they show up or while they're at state fair even. So could be our approach.
Jonathan, I have a question. I see you answered in the chat box about Converse County said that the season pins, but is that on this individual registration? I don't see, or is that the $40 gate pass? Or are those different? I've always thought they were different, but because my people buy the season passes and I don't see that on there, so I need to know how much they are.
Yeah, I'll try and see if I've got it on there. It should be on there. You can. It depends if they have a wristband for staying in the dorms. That functions as both.
Right, but if they're not and they're in the campground, but they're staying all week, they need a pin, right?
They need a pin or if they don't leave the grounds, they can pay the $2 every time they leave the grounds.
So
pins are for the body.
Right. So how do you know how much those are? That's what I need to know.
I thought they were on that thing. I'll look. I believe they were $10. Chris, if you're on, would you tell me differently? Oh, Sarah's nodding.
I don't see it on there, but
I believe it's on the form, the individual form too. If it's
Let me look and see if it's on that form.
I didn't see it on there unless I'm missing it.
All right.
Which is quite possible.
I can add it too and then resend it out, but let me look here.
So let me move on to the process then, and we can come back to some other questions that might pop up exactly like that, Amber, if that's all right.
So, Jonathan, let me just clarify. On there it says $10 registration for all 4-H members. So is that in addition to the dorms, we need to add additional $10 pin to that form then? A commemorative pin they're called, or credentials or whatever.
So let me run through the rest of these and then see what that means to what forms, because I can't remember what was on your form versus the forms online, Sarah.
Okay.
That's all right. Okay. And I think the answer could be yes or no, depending on what is on there. So the first step you as an educator are going to do is make sure your livestock is signed up into ShowWorks by the kids' entries. So you're going to get a password from State Fair. Each of you as a 4-H educator will get an email from them from State Fair, or in some fashion communicated, that gives you access to this page, the State Fair, the ShowWorks online entry page, and you enter all of your kids into that process. You would get that information from those, either from your fair data set that the fair might give you through ShowWorks, or from those individual forms that Sarah said that you would have them fill out. I would suggest you go off those forms and not the fair information, simply because that can be a gap between what kids did at the county fair and what they want to do at the state fair. Okay, so that's number one. Question, and again, I don't even know what that looks like. You all that use ShowWorks at least, or have done this in the past, would know way better than I would what that actually looks like. But the password to do that will come from State Fair sometime in the near future. Okay, that's step one. Step two is then you're going to order all of the stuff. So here's the order form for all of the stuff. You're doing this as one big order for your county on behalf of everybody from your county for all of this stuff. So you're going to go put all this information in. This helps State Fair. A couple things to notice: this total number of youth bringing livestock matters, because it better match up to the number of kids that are showing up in ShowWorks and registration materials. This also dictates some of the freebie support materials from parking and transportation that happen from the State Fair by encouraging you to attend. This number dictates that. It's on a sliding scale that you can find out in the fair book. So the first thing you're going to do again, and then is identify the number of market beef. This would be crossover from the information you just finished putting in the other page. How many of them are market beef? How many stalls do they need? Breeding beef. And this helps you calculate the dollar amounts then associated with that collectively, okay, to write that one check. So if you've got 8 kids bringing 8 market beef, you would put 8 in there. And how many stalls do they need? Well, they would need 8, right? How many breeding beef? 3. And then as you work through this, it adds the number of stalls based on those things. So just plug through each of those and put the numbers in, and it'll take care of asking you all the right questions, okay? So you can see that for market swine, then it asks you how many you need, and it'll calculate that all the way through the livestock, all the way down to horses. rabbits, poultry, wool, alpaca, anything that is coming for the 4-H supported youth shows, okay? Nothing open class is done through here, 0. You have nothing to do with that, nor FFA. If you have an arrangement where you help FFA do this, then that's between the two of you locally. It has nothing to do with that. And I would suggest you make sure you separate out 4-H and FFA up here. You do one entry for yourselves, okay? Those additional credentials that we're talking about here is you will get feed trailer permits based on the number of kids coming. They will give those, they'll be in your package. You can distribute those to whoever you want based on those numbers of kids bringing livestock, okay? Again, it's based on the number of kids bringing livestock, not the amount of livestock itself. So you're going to distribute those to a volunteer. Like Amber said, the semi-driver most likely will get one of those. If you have clubs, the same number is used for giving out free feed delivery vehicle passes. Those delivery vehicle passes allow a vehicle on the grounds during certain hours in the morning and in the evenings. The idea is that they store their hay, tack, whatever else out in the trailer, and if they need to get their feed from the trailer to their pens from the Pepsi lot, which is up on the hill, this allows easy access during certain hours to feed their animals. Again, you're going to get a few of those for free, and you can distribute those to who you feel needs those in your community. It can be a parent, a mom, a club leader, however you handle that. Yourselves, I would not let that be me if it was me. You can also order additional feed passes. They're $60 each. Again, they have limited times for delivery in the morning hours and in the evening hours for feed. So, but if you need more of those, you can purchase more of those. Sometimes you have a family that says, I'll just pay the $60. I want to do that on my own. Or your fair might say, yep, we'll pay all feed delivery, transportation, parking permits. So get what you need, then you'll know by the data collected from those other sheets to help you figure that out. You're going to get additional livestock parking permits. These livestock parking permits allow for parking down by the barns. You can purchase additional ones of those. It says additional because you have no parking down by the facilities. Equine parking, that's new and was mentioned by Kim. This parking is, that's why I put the H permit. It hasn't been new. It just has been one of those things floating around. I believe it allows you access to park your trailer, your horse trailer, and or a vehicle down by the horse show ring. But it's only, I believe, on horse show days, so it does not extend on to Thursday, Friday, or Saturday. It would be for just when those youth horse show days exist. And again, don't quote me on that because I've never known what that actually allows them to do. All I know is it shows up and people ask you, why do they get an H permit and how do I get one? I will try and clarify that between now to for future reference. Here's the commemorative season pins. This is the gate admission all week. So it asks you if you want to, how many of those you want to buy to distribute to kids. I believe that's what we were referring to from the Converse County email. They're both, that says youth and adults because at one point in time, State Fair in the past, which I do not know this year, had different ones. If you're an adult, you got this looking season pin, and if you're a youth, you got that one. Most years, it's just the same looking pin, and then just count them out and distribute them. This is incorrect on here. I will take this off. It is not discounted to $8 by Cloud Peak Energy. They are $10 a piece, okay? And I believe your form has them that way too, Sarah, correct?
It doesn't have them. That's the question we need to answer.
Okay.
So that's where we need to go after this discussion.
Okay, so the answer to that is, Sarah, we need to add that to the form so they can gather that data. So we'll update that form. Does that work? Does that answer your guys' questions that we're asking?
Well, I think, Jonathan, the question is you need to scroll down. Where do we put the $10 per 4-H member?
That's on the whole next.
Okay.
That's a second check they have to write. Okay.
Then yes, I will add that to my thing and resend that out in about 5 minutes. I'll wait to the end to make sure that we don't have anything else to add to it.
Yeah, maybe I can find out about that H parking. We can include it in one big email. Okay, this individual gated daily admission is sometimes families or whatever ask you, or you want to play nice to somebody that's old or a donor, what have you. This is just a way that you can buy individual gate tickets for $2 a piece and have them in there. You may have somebody coming down for one day and you want to provide them the gate ticket for some reason, you can buy them there. The easy answer is let them pay at the gate when they get there. That's what I would do if I were you. I would just say, yep, if you get there, it's $2 at the gate, pay and come in that day and you're on your own. If they're not there for the week, if they're there for 2 days or 3 days, then you're not in the middle of distributing $2 gate tickets for single days. Anybody disagree? Yeah, Emily's saying, yeah, no, don't go there either. I agree. But that's what it is. It's an opportunity, and some people have asked for it for odd scenarios, so there it is. If you have a golf cart, which is not provided to you by anybody, if your county has one, you own one, your neighbor owns one, whatever, and you're bringing it to the state fair for use, you still have to pay $220 to the state fair for a pass that then is attached to that golf cart, which gives it permission to be on the grounds and driven around. You have to provide proof of insurance and valid driver's license at the state fair as part of that registration material, and they will ask for that when you show up for each one of those golf cart passes. You cannot collect them necessarily for all the other people unless they have that information, okay? So if a mom or dad wants a golf cart pass, they can go get one if they're available at the state fair on their own. Again, I wouldn't go gathering this for other people myself. I would just do it for you if you need to, because your fair provides you one, you want one. Personally, your county provides you one, what have you, and it varies from county to county in that respect. The only reason you would need a golf cart is really is for transportation up and down off the hill a bazillion times during the week. Okay. Dorm wristbands, this is kind of more important. If you have kids that are staying, or adult chaperones that are staying in the dorms, they are $40 for the week. That gives them, these wristbands give them identification that they're staying in the dorm for safety purposes, identification on the grounds that they're a 4-H member because they have one of those. That's the only way we really know about those. And it does provide them access in and out the gate as part of that $40 for the week. So they're random colors. They're usually those carnival looking wristbands, and they'll be in your package. You can distribute them back to your kids. There's no, you get it based on the number of kids coming again and staying in the dorms. You'll get parking permits. These are for you or your chaperones to park up behind the dorms. That's where you get to park. These are provided to you as an agent for no charge to be able, by state fair, to be able to come and represent and help manage your kids by being there. Your parking access with that is strictly behind the dorms and the buildings up on the hill. And you'll see on the map, state fair has a parking map that shows that. You can buy additional ones. Those might be for a parent saying, well, I want one and I want to come and get on the grounds for whatever reason. They're $50 and they too can park up behind the dorms just like you. There is no special pass that some mom wants that says, but I'm special and I want a pass to park down by the goat ring one day. If they do that, they have to pay that $80 livestock parking, and it has its limitations as well. Next is cafeteria tickets. They're $140. It covers all of the meals, and it lists which meals are covered here from breakfast to breakfast on those dates. It is a discounted rate.
That is incorrect.
The
So the first meal started is dinner on Monday. I called and asked, so we need to probably change that.
All right, well, that's changed since our last meeting even. Okay.
Okay, well, maybe that's wrong, but that's what State Fair called me when I called and asked them what meals were covered. They said they would be opening the cafeteria Monday evening.
Okay, I based it
So
off.
we need to look into that. Sorry.
Well, there was a debate at the last meeting about that, and that could have been changed. You're right. I will update this page. That's why we do this ahead of time, right? And then if you have youth that need like individual tickets to the cafeteria, there you go. You can buy them for them. That's typically done for like your cat people, dog, kids. Where do I get lunch? I'm only here for the day, and then my mom's going to come pick me up. They can always just go spend their cold hard cash at any of the vendors on the grounds instead. But if they want to go eat in an air-conditioned place, any one of those meals, they're $10 each. I believe they can pay at the door for that as well. So this, to some extent, is obsolete, but sometimes it helps. Parents sometimes like to feel good about Johnny's got it, or Susie has their lunch ticket for that one day. Okay? But what it does is it will total up all your fees, and this would be the dollar amount. You would write one check to the Wyoming State Fair for all of this stuff. When you arrive, they will put it in a packet. Let me go stop then. At this point, this is step number 2, and look at the chat box. So Kelly, that's correct. If they have a wristband for $40, they can come on and off the grounds with that wristband. It's a pass for them to get on and off the grounds as well. But remember, to get those, they have to be a 4-H member or a 4-H chaperone. And they're $40, so it's more cost effective for parents and everybody else to buy the other season pass, or just come in at the gate and pay their $2 as they come and go. Okay? Any other questions about the second step with this? I'm sure you will have more. Great. I'll go to step 3. Step 3 is, then you just that's all stuff that goes to State Fair, right? A check to State Fair. State Fair reserve your pens, your animals are signed up. That's all State Fair related with that. Then there are particular pieces that are just for 4-H that are tied to like that, the fashion review, staying in the dorms, our livestock judging contest, and some livestock related forms, and that's what this is about. Yes, there is an additional $10 fee per youth, 4-H youth, that is coming to the State Fair, right? That is either in the livestock judging contest, the fashion review contest, showing animals that are, if they're going to be there and participate in any of the State 4-H contests or State Fair offered events, they have to pay their $10. That check will be written to the 4-H Foundation, okay? So when you arrive at the State Fair, I'll walk you through that scenario of what that might look like, but you will put that information into here. If you have kids staying in the dorms, it'll ask you, great, how many and who are they, right? If you just say no, it moves on. If you only have girls or boys, it does that, okay? I'm going to say, let's say you have no kids staying in the dorm, but then if you have kids participating in the state livestock judging contest, you have a chance to enter them there. Who are they and what age are they? Please put their names in there and what age they are. If this is one key reminder here, if they are on a team, if they're one of your judging team members, either on your junior team or senior teams, if they are competing as a team member, they do not need to be listed over here. This is for any child that like is going to compete but happens to not be on one of your teams, okay? So they're either, if they're competing in the contest, they will be listed here or here, but all of them should be in one of those 2 places. Okay, same thing then exists for fashion review. Enter them all into here, and it will give you a total of what that check is due to the State 4-H Foundation. Here's a link right there to the narratives. It was also in the email. I will click on it to show you. You can give that link in that letter. It's listed, I believe, as well, so parents can go on and upload all this information for kids that are participating in the fashion review. There's the time slots. They can upload their narrative. They can type it in there.
Just to let people know something about fashion review, we don't want pictures of the kids. This comes up every year. We can't print them. There's no reason for us to have them. We'll take pictures that day for the judges. So please don't have people uploading or sending pictures to us. We haven't asked for them for a couple of years. So one other thing is in the schedule, it's listed that we're judging fashion review on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Please note it will just be Friday, Saturday, starting at 10 a.m. each morning, because that's when the judges were contracted for. So if you have any questions about that, this fair schedule is wrong unless they've changed it. I know they were working on that, but it is 10 o'clock starting on Friday and 10 o'clock starting on Saturday, which is much different than probably what was happening last year or the year before.
And we're back at the high school this year, correct, Sarah?
Yeah, we were there last year too, so we're continuing our trek at the high school. They're not remodeling this year, so we should be good.
Okay, so that would be the third. Let me back up here. So that's this third registration, is all of that information that gets you through that. The last part of this entry form is because there's lots of stuff happening all at the same time and you can't be everywhere, we need to know, and the superintendents need to know, if there needs to be a change occur at any one of these livestock related shows, do you give permission to anybody else to make those changes or verify that they're correct on your behalf? So I'll give you an example. If you are Amber Armejo or Emily Swinier and you are one part doing something, helping judging on the hill or volunteering, we'll get to that in a second, and the dog show is going on, and you really trust your dog, a volunteer in the dog show, to say, look, they're my go-to person locally. I trust them. They can make all of these decisions on my behalf. Then you can enter their name and phone number in there. So if there's a question that comes up at the dog show, the superintendents of the dog show have that name and phone number to contact. Otherwise, they're going to be contacting you directly. The superintendents will. So if you want that, or you want that for all of them or only some areas, you get to decide who that is. We share that information with the superintendents simply as a way to resolve problems. If something happens, you can hear about it directly or indirectly, depending on your choice, for all of those animal areas. And again, you can click all of those, but they are required. We do make you go through and say no, no, no to yes, so that superintendents can feel comfortable at the state fair of knowing who to get a hold of and that they did the right thing. Okay? Those are the three forms. That's it. In terms of registration materials, so now let me walk you through if I were you showing up at the state fair. I would have a pre-meeting. If I were you, and I would have a plan based on when you're planning to get there with all these other things, as well as your families, to distribute all of these wristband tickets. Most counties have a meeting that first day, that first evening, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, sometime that doesn't conflict with the animals getting there and people being able to do that, and tell the families to have a representation there for them to pick up all of this stuff. So you have a way to distribute all this information back to all of them and the right stuff that you'll get. So I would schedule that meeting. The first thing I would do if I show up at the state fair is I would show up and I'd go down and get in line at the state fair office in their building and pay for everything that you ordered here. They will give you a big packet and they'll have it ready for you in your name. You pay for it, you pick it up, and then you have all that materials to start distributing to the families per whatever they wanted or you ordered for them, okay? That's the primary thing. The second thing then is, and I would not be in a rush right away, necessarily, the sooner you do that, the happier for us, but we need to know who's staying in the dorms. So at some point, the next thing you need to do is check in with the state 4-H office in Fort Casper and check in with Steve and give them a check for this dollar amount. How many kids are going to be there and which ones are all in all of these contests or these pieces, so we know. Okay? Then after that, you can figure out how to massively distribute everything, get your exhibits unloaded, whatever your process for all of that. Whether you're using volunteers, you're doing it, your office, a combination of both, what have you. Okay? After that, fair happens. And I will turn to Sarah for more information about opportunities for you, volunteers or others, to volunteer to then engage in any of the judging things that are going on throughout the calendar week. Sarah? You're muted, Sarah.
All right. I want to thank everybody for signing up for the numerous calls to help that I have put out. I'm going to share with you. Jonathan, you have to stop sharing. There. All right, awesome. Whoopsie. I'm going to share with you just the Sign Up Genius to show you where the gaps still are. There actually aren't very many, which is great. It looks like the only gap we have left is Wednesday, judging in Fort Reno. We are requiring all of the interns to be all hands on deck on Wednesday. So I'm going to go through the list, and if one of your interns that's paid by the state is currently not signed up, they will be put right there where we still need 4 more helpers. So that's just an automatic, unless they've contacted me. I know that Josh and I have talked, and I think that's it. So if you aren't signed up for sometime on Wednesday, that's where we'll put you. If you have volunteers that want to help out, this is where we can put them. Wednesday is just a really weird day. We've never done judging, a livestock judging contest and a cat show all at the same time. So it's going to be a little bit more labor intensive than we're used to. So we do need people to help the judges in Fort Reno. If you have 5 or 10 minutes that you want to just come and help, we will put you to work. So please stop by, especially on that Wednesday, please stop by Fort Reno. And we can have you hang exhibits, put things around, put ribbons on stuff, but that's where we're going to probably need the most help. There may be additional help needed at the livestock judging contest. I'm still working with Caleb to work out all of those details. Beyond that, it looks like we're pretty filled up, so we don't have a lot of other opportunities. However, I'm sure things will come up, especially Fashion Review may need some extra help, so you can always talk with Megan and Stacy and Kim to see what kind of needs they have, because we don't have any specific help listed those days. And you can always find me and I can find something for you to do, I promise. So if you're bored and want to find something to do, that would be great. I also want to thank the people who signed up to be superintendents or contacts for the livestock shows. I'll try to send that list out later so that you know who to maybe ask some questions to, especially for those livestock related projects. That way, if you have a question about entry or about how the show's going to run or things that are happening, that person can be your go-to person to make that call with the superintendent to find out the nuances of things that you want to know. We do have a brand new horse superintendent and new sheep superintendents this year. I think those are the ones that were the major changes. So that way you could, Kim Fry is taking over for Kelly, because I think Kelly said she's going to be in the hospital having a baby that week. So she's not going to be at State Fair. So we're not going to expect her to help with the sheep show. So Kim has graciously taken that over. And then Amber is working with the horse superintendents to make those contacts. So there may be some things that change, especially in those two areas. My guess is horse more than sheep, just because we do have 2 brand new superintendents who are potentially making some changes in those project areas. So be forewarned about that. But I'll send that list out here when I send out the email with the new form, so that you know who those contacts are for the different shows. And if you are one of those, I know I've talked to you and hopefully you have done this, but I ask that you make contact with that superintendent, introduce yourself, give them your cell phone number, tell them that you'll be there to help, ask if they have any additional needs, that kind of thing. I have scheduled 2 people to come and help with all of the showmanship contests, because those are 4-H related contests. So in addition to the leadership team, there should be 2 staff or 2 interns or 2 whatever there to help to place people, hand out ribbons, whatever it is you need them to do. They're kind of as our go-to people, because those are our shows. We want to make sure that we have enough help there. And I think for swine, we have an additional 4 or 5 people, just because that one tends to be a little bit more labor intensive. So that's what I have for help though. So once again, if your interns haven't signed up, have them contact me or know that they need to sign up for that Fort Reno slot. We ask them all to sign up for at least 3 opportunities in addition to the 1, or 2 opportunities in addition to the 1 thing on Wednesday.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate real quick that while the interns have been yours all summer long, the agreement with Extension for funding, that's how they're getting paid, is so that we get to use them at State Fair. That's the priority out of that, is all of the 4-H events, which are our static exhibits, showmanships, and our contest. So as an example, the beef show is not a high priority for the 4-H interns. They may want to be there, but all of the things that happen on Wednesday are our priority, as well as some of the other things that play out later. So basically, we're taking your bodies. If they don't sign them up, you need to help reinforce. If you have interns, they've got to come through with those responsibilities or it all falls apart. Because if they don't do theirs, then we're coming to you. And I already have Kelly's support from the perspective of he's going to be asking us this year for a report of who showed up and who didn't. So that'll be interesting to the reports. But at the same time, please, your job then is just, if you don't have an intern, then plug in there, help us out where you can. And then other than that, it's to manage and work with your people. If we can get through Wednesday, frankly, the rest of the week is you just supporting your kids in your county. It doesn't mean you don't have headaches until Wednesday with all of that, right? But my experience has been is if all of us can get through Wednesday with 4-H, then the rest of the week is mostly helping and supporting our kids in the livestock shows that are going on later in the week. So now I'll turn to further questions or also words of advice. Dawn's on, Amber's on, there's others I'm looking around. If you have other advice to either newbies or each other, here's a great chance to ask each other, share, whatever else, because we're recording it. And I know Emily Haver and others would love to learn from this because they're going to be watching.
Couple things I'll say is please check your mailboxes. Super frustrating when you don't. So they are located in Fort Casper. That's the way that we're going to communicate to you with stuff. Second, I usually make sure that I collect everybody's cell phone numbers before State Fair. So I'm usually the only one that has the updated list. When I ask Jonathan for the Teton County educator, he usually gives me like Kenzie or the girl before that. So if you need a cell phone number or you need to get a hold of somebody, I usually have the most updated version of that. So please feel free to find me. I don't give them out to your people, but if they do have questions, I will send you a text or contact you. So please watch for that from me. If you had a cell phone number that changed, please let me know that so that I can make sure I have the right contact for you.
One thing we do as a county, just to kind of, because we have a smaller delegation that goes to State Fair, but as a way to kind of bring them together, we will have a county barbecue just as a kind of a fun, just relax, eat. The council, I'll bring like hamburgers and hot dogs, usually left over from fair, on our food booth concession stand. And then they bring salads or desserts or, whatever. So it's just kind of a fun way to gather everybody. That we try to do it early on the week and find out, check in with everybody. It's kind of a fun night. This is what we do.
You just do that down in the campground? Remember?
Yeah, we just pick, somebody usually brings a grill and we just all kind of gather, bring your own chairs and just gather around on the campground.
Other words of advice? Okay, the last thing I'll tell you is there two things actually. One is there used to be like a dorm meeting. That's now just an educator one, so we can get a chance to do that exact same thing. Come, the last minute details, last minute questions while you're all on the grounds. That's what that's for. We meet up in the cafeteria typically. Go ahead, Sarah.
Just a question, because it's in the letter. Will there still be a dorm meeting at 10:30 the first night just to meet the chaperones and stuff? So just to let you know, for kids that are staying there.
In the actual dorms themselves, the head dorm chaperones will be meeting with everybody and saying, remember, here's the rules and dorms and lights and stuff like that. Yes.
Okay.
But that's one, is we'll have that meeting. The other one I'll do is there are lots of opportunities on the grounds. Tied extension, not tied extension. For example, besides the judging contest, there's the evaluation contest with where the kids can come and learn from the meat specialists of the animal science department about what to look for in pigs and lambs. With the ultrasound contest, the kids can actually compete and win some recognition, but they have a learning experience that's advertised in the grounds. I know a couple other associations have other things in there. So encourage the kids to kind of share what they think they're going to be doing with each other. So there's lots of opportunities that kids can participate in on the grounds and learn and have fun together. And then I would just reiterate safety with them, okay? Just don't go down to the carnival alone, or anywhere for that matter, but be together and make sure everybody else are watching out for each other. We're a big family down there, but at the same time, it's also stressful when you're not sure about that fill in the blank kids that are there, okay? Keep an eye on them. We're there to help. Fort Casper is your main go-to place for our office while you're there. Like Sarah said, there's mailboxes there. We'll communicate through those with handouts or ribbons that come back, what have you. Usually, and make sure you check that before you go, end of fair, before you go home. Check that box because there'll be stuff in there. If some kid won an award at the horse show and then went home and didn't know they got it because they were on the first part of it and left, that's where it'll get put in your box to get back to them. Any other questions? Okay, great. Again, we'll look for an updated email from us, and there'll probably be a few more that come on if there's any changes to pop out between now and then about State Fair. I know you're all have your brains on your county fairs, and rightfully so. We figured if we didn't have this sharing meeting, then you couldn't be planning the rest of these things in the same fine line. And those that are new are already, I think, a little panicked about getting everything done with State Fair. So we wanted to make sure we got it done. call with questions. We're here to help. We're on your team. And stay tuned. Go Pokes. All that, okay? Thanks, everybody. I'm going to stop recording.